Greetings, everyone. This is Rock'n'Roll Spotcomach with the weekly comic book roundup. Well, the usually weekly comic book roundup. As I've stated now multiple times, there was no roundup last week because, well, no Marvel or DC books were released. At least none of the ones that are on my pull list. So, let's get started with this week's books. Kicking things off with Marvel's X, number 4. Where we left off, Marvel's X number 3, our young hero David, the last normal human on the planet, had been captured by a mutated Kraven the Hunter, who informed David that he killed Captain America. So we begin with David in Kraven's lair, thinking about Iron Man, and opining that when things are really bad, he thinks about Iron Man. He knows there will be a tomorrow because Iron Man's already planned for it. So, but David asks Kraven how he killed Cap. Kraven says it was a good hunt. His scent was undeniable. He says it's life's cruel irony that he has become the very beast he once hunted. After he goes on about it. Turning over to Spider-Man, he's at the Midtown NYPD precinct, talking to Luke Cage, who's kind of decided he's gonna basically be a cop. So we're basically setting up where we find Cage in Earth X as Officer Cage. But Spider-Man tells Luke about David. He even makes a snappy joke, and Cage claims that Spider-Man is turning like his old self all the time. Pretty soon, Spidey will be talking to himself again. Spider-Man says that he's not talking to himself. He talks to Daredevil. As he leaves the precinct, he talks to Daredevil. Daredevil, meanwhile, has found Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman. Meaning this happens before the FF's apparent death the apparent deaths of Sue and Johnny at the hands of Namor that is hinted at in Earth X. Daredevil explains to Sue that with his senses, she's never invisible. He asks how Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, is doing, and she simply says, "You know, Reed, if the problem isn't Reed's fault, it's his fault he hasn't solved it yet. Same old story." And apparently Reed has heard that David could be the key to finding a cure. But now they simply have to find him. So back with Spider-Man, he's still talking to Daredevil, trying to use expand his spider sense to find the right threat. Meanwhile, David's trying to escape from Kraven. Grabs Kraven's old rifle and tries sneaking up on Kraven. And he slips, fires a shot, but misses. And then Spider-Man comes in. However, Kraven is prepared for Spider-Man, and yeah, he ends up in a massive razor wire. for Spider-Man to even struggle a little would be for him to be cut. Spider-Man's trying to get David not shoot Kraven, while Kraven is trying to get David to shoot him. But before David can pull the trigger, the Avengers arrive, meaning this is also before the Avengers were killed. Also with the Avengers are the Fantastic Four. And so, Spidey gets free. Oh, Spidey manages to at least knock Kraven out, and then we learn that Hawkeye has apparently grown extra limbs, which makes sense. Hawkeye being a baseline human, whatever's mutating everyone would mutate him. Herc, however, leaves as the heroes part ways with Kraven in the custody of Luke Cage and David in the custody of the Fantastic Four. However, Hercules explains that there won't be a cure even if this boy holds a secret restored in the mortal world. The age of gods and marvels is over. And he knows the fates far too well. And that is where the issue ends. Next up, we've got Ghost Rider number 7. Where we left off in Ghost Rider, Danny Ketch, having been freed of the spirit of vengeance by his brother Johnny Blaze, now currently the King of Hell, ended up becoming the spirit of corruption. Meanwhile, Johnny has freed Mephisto from his cell in Las Vegas and is causing problems and has gone after Doctor Strange. Because Johnny is actually somewhat pissed at Strange. Well, he hasn't been in real time, he hasn't been in hell too terribly long. Time moves differently in hell. So to him, he feels like he's been there for thousands of years. Meanwhile, the demon mother Lilith is making a play to unite all the underworlds under her own rule. Outside the Sanctum Sanctorum, Mephisto and Johnny stand over Doctor Strange, and one of Lilith's demons sees what's happening. In Kentucky, Lilith, alongside longtime Ghost Rider villain Orb, is seeing exactly what's happening. And so the call is put out for all hellbound creatures in New York. She will grant a place by her side for any who brings her the head of Johnny Blaze or Mephisto. She goes on to say this is the dawn of a new hell. It is up to all of you to usher it in. As the demons make their way to the Sanctum, Johnny and Strange have words with Strange basically saying, every demon that he's used the damnation stare on, they went back to hell but left a part of themselves with Johnny. Their essence, their wickedness, stays with him. It's clouding Johnny's judgment and changing who he is. Mephisto is, of course, trying to get Johnny to just take out Strange. And Strange is also trying to trick Johnny as well, but mainly so he can get free. which leads to Strange getting blasted with Hellfire. However, before he can continue to attack Strange, well, some unexpected reinforcement arrives. Wolverine, the Punisher, Caretaker, and Danny Ketch, the Spirit of Corruption. Of course, Punisher is well aware that shooting Johnny isn't going to stop him for long. And so, Danny and Johnny go head to head as the horde of demons that have been called by Lilith arrive. Johnny rips into Danny, basically, kind of saying, hey, look, you claim you hate the Ghost Rider, pretending you want to do it, but when I do that for you, you run out and find something else to fill the void. He also states that Wolverine and Punisher are two men that have killed more people than cigarettes. The fight continues. The demons arrive, and Caretaker joins the fray as well, with a rather amusing bit of foretelling, but from Mephisto stating to Punisher that he'd make a good Ghost Rider. Nice little nod to Cosmic Ghost Rider's origin, I might add. So, Johnny and Danny's fight continues until Danny runs Johnny through with the Blade of Corruption. And that's a hell of a sight there. I gotta remember to get next time Aaron Tudor's at the shop to have it. I don't know, get a sketch from him or something. Because, however, but Danny basically says, asks him, tells him he's beating Strange to death. Johnny's beating Strange to death. He's riding around with Mephisto. He's become the very thing they always fought against. And Danny's about to kill Johnny with the sword when Wolverine stops him. But Strange is able to turn the tide a bit and remove the evil from within. I think it's Johnny. And Johnny comes to. Danny explains that Johnny was consumed by corruption, by the sin he'd been burning out of others, and that Danny absorbed the corruption, cleansed Johnny. And the two brothers hug. He realizes he was ready to kill anyone who stood in his way of his mission. However, he's not done with that mission. He thanks Danny for the save, but it also explains it's too dangerous to keeping Mephisto on Earth, and Mephisto will be Johnny's responsibility now. But Johnny explains that he's got he's got to do one last thing, and then but when he comes back, Johnny and Danny are going to have to face Lilith in half of hell. And Johnny can't do it without Danny. And the issue doesn't end there. Caretaker and Danny arrive back at the Fadeaway, Danny's bar. However, Blackheart's there. Blackheart, the son of Mephisto. Not too happy about things. In fact, Blackheart said he would rather die than see Lilith sit on the throne that is rightfully his. He tells Danny that he will align himself with Blackheart or forfeit the souls of those he holds dear. Yeah. Fun, fun, fun. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our next selection for the week from Marvel. We got 2 videos this week. One Marvel, one DC, and boom. But next up we've got X-Force number 10. Where we left off in X-Force, the team had gone to the nation of Terra Verde again. Basically to clean up Beast's mess. Because, well, yeah. Because Beast can't leave well enough a friggin' alone, and yeah. But they have managed to at least somewhat trace the telephoronics in the country to a temple. And so, Wolverine, Kid Omega, and Domino are exploring, trying to get to the heart of things. Wolverine is also criticizing Domino for being brought back with a section of her memory missing. Mainly because, well, he spent so long trying to remember everything that he can't understand why someone would want to forget or would want to not have certain memories. I mean, I'm sure there are memories he wishes he didn't have, but I think it's more a case of, I wish I didn't remember this, but at the same time, the fact that his memories are now, his full memory is his now yeah. Anyway. But there are, of course, death traps within the everywhere. Also, something's getting to the members of X-Force, and, well, they all appear to be acting a bit off. Like Quentin, Kid Omega, making suggestions of claiming if he were in charge on Krakoa, he would have the 5 resurrect Wolverine and Domino with a beta version of his brain into their bodies, basically making them his slobbering acolytes, his leg-humping groupies. They find a wall within the temple which has quite a bit to say. Basically, it's an ancient temple, so cave, not so much. Think along the lines of Central and South American hieroglyphics, basically. And the Vines snag Quentin and then Logan, leaving Domino alone. We then get an entry from Beast's logbook, claiming a minor miscalculation. Telephoronic technology is an indigenous knowledge system bound up in thousands of years of Terra Verde history, going back to the time of the Olmec. Though one could say it is nothing new, its successful instrumentation has been lost as a result of both biological evolution, Roman Catholic acculturation, as well as pollution and modernization. For years it was dismissed by many as equivalent to alchemy or necromancy. But even in recent years, when the country invested all of their resources into research that might bring telephoronics into the 21st century as a tool and as a weapon, they hadn't quite broken through the coding of the cellular data. I did. Not intentionally. I studied the telephoronics source code and reprogrammed it to identify dendrites and axons as infection. The plants would consume the host's mind. This was meant to put a terrorist out of commission. What I did not anticipate is that by disrupting the symbiotic give and take of the biotech, I made the plants dormant, or dominant. Terra Verde is now a fierce collective intelligence, not so dissimilar to Krakoa except as an enemy. One could say that Ak, the punishing Olmec deity, had been summoned. I suppose this is a good thing in that it will make us more aware and prepared as a nation ourselves as to how things could go wrong. Yes, it's absolutely a good thing. I might have made a minor miscalculation, but it will ultimately benefit us. Good to know Beast is still one of the smartest idiots in the world. On Krakoa, Black Tom is standing at one of the gates, though it appears Krakoa is trying to keep him there. So he eats a fistful of dirt, and then steps through the gate into Terra Verde. Back on Terra Verde, we pick up with Domino, who has no idea where she is because she can't see the dark, claiming that not dying is a matter of, well, blind luck. Which is, kind of her thing. She then thinks about her war mitten that Forge designed, and the fact it's narrow responsive, and could be anything she needed it to be. So, she asks for sight, and she gets night vision. And she ends up being quite glad that Wolverine leaves a rather distinct set of tracks, though she's hoping that's not all that's left of him. And she comes upon Wolverine tied to an altar by vines, about to be sacrificed. He's not too happy about this, claiming that if the priest sticks him with the knife he's holding, well, Wolverine's got 6 ways of sticking him back. Domino charges in, stating that if they want a sacrifice, they can go mulch themselves. Back at the point, Beast is trying to contact the field team and getting nothing when Jean shows up. And she's not happy at all. And he basically justifies everything away with math because, well, Beast. Again, smartest idiot in the room. But she tells him to shut up and forget math and look at the human cost of what he's done. This is followed by a prose section, simply the conscience of warfare. Jean does not need to tell Beast anything, so she makes him feel it instead. There isn't simply one person who's been sacrificed. There's a whole country's worth of them. Beast has created a clear and present danger of mutant kind by weaponizing a hostile nation with a botanical armament far more dangerous to Krakoa than any nuclear warhead. And in doing so, he very well might be responsible for the death of a nation, the genocide of the Terra Verdean people, who have been inhabited or consumed by the Telephoronic Force. Before, when the mutants lost Xavier and Cerebro, they all saw a possible end. If resurrection was no longer possible, they had lost their major advantage. What if all of Krakoa was destroyed or hacked? The loss would be even greater. They would be disarmed, neutered, homeless. That is the threat Telephoronics in aggregate pose in their more robust second generation, as a conduit for surveillance and arms. Before Jean abandons Beast, before she blasts out of his shadowy lair and through the waterfall and into the green music of the day, before she rushes toward the gate that leads to Terra Verde, she says, "We're in charge of the secrets. Us. We've been trusted with them by Xavier. We can't keep things from each other. We can't have secrets beneath secrets. Or how can we hold each other accountable?" And though no one was there to see for sure, Beast might have let a single tear track down his muzzle before roughing it away with the back of his hand. Kind of would have liked to see that rather than just read about it, but yeah. Back in Terra Verde, Black Tom is not having the best time of things dealing with the Telephoronics there. However, Jean and Sage arrives to help. Jean stating that they're going to try to clean up this mess, not alone, but together. We then get some insight from Quentin saying that, explaining Krakoa feeds on the few for the benefit of the many. Terra Verde appears to do the same. Quite literally, they're trying to eat me alive right now. Is one wrong and the other right? You could say that that's a matter of perspective, but from where I'm standing, it's a hell of a lot worse to be kid compost than the rake that rips through the weeds. I can feel the roots burrowing into my skin. I can feel them creeping into my nose and tunneling into my ears. Pollen blinds my eyes. Dirt chokes my throat. I'm fertilizer. I'm a seed pod. I'm a telephloronic spore. Is this how the humans think of us? As something invasive, like the fungus that blights the crop? Like the vines that choke the tree? As he's saying this, however, Wolverine has managed to get free, stabs the priest, but the telephronics counter it. Back with Jean, Sage, and Black Tom, Jean suggests that the three explains that they're going to have to fight dirty with dirty. So if beasts turn their own biotech, turn Terra Verde's biotech into a weapon, the cellular programming of the telephronics have made it into a kind of contagion. If this temple is the hard drive, then they are the Trojan. And by merging their minds, Sage, Black Tom, and herself, Jean has also merged their powers, allowing for cryptofluoronic manipulation. As techno-biological malware, they can stage a coup. They can orchestrate Terra Verde's undoing. Maybe they can be free now, she says. Though something tells her that Beast would prefer to make the nation into an extended Republic of Krakoa. But that's out of her hands. She quits. Back on Krakoa at the Broken Baths, Wolverine is enjoying the evening. And Jean comes to join him. Telling Logan that she hates to ruin his peace, but and Logan interrupts her, asking if she quit. She explains that she's supposed to be the mind reader, and Logan says to her that he knew she wouldn't last long, and nothing, no offense, she's too good for the kind of work that he's doing. He then says that you suppose one could argue that X-Force needs a moral compass, though, and Jean suggests Sage, though Wolverine says that she sometimes comes across as a calculator more than a moral compass, but she'll have to do. Jean suggests Logan give her time, and that Sage is like a house that's bigger on the inside than the outside, and maybe he should reach out to Colossus. He's got a big heart. Logan explains that Colossus is big everything. But Jean goes on to say that she feels like she doesn't know what she feels like. The whole thing, this new dawn, it's about defending against the worst. Isn't it also about hoping for the best? And Logan says that sometimes you gotta be the worst to fight the worst. Jean asks him, aren't they supposed to be evolving? And Logan says, if you ask Professor, you bet. Ask me, optimism is a recessive gene. And she then says that if Logan thinks she's too good for X-Force, then he probably thinks that she's too good for you. And he says, well, sure, but you need to taste the poison now and then, just to keep things balanced. And, well, yeah. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our final book for this video. A revisitation of a classic. X-Men. God Loves, Man Kills. The extended cut. So, first and foremost, X-Men God Loves, Man Kills is one of the best X-Men story, best and most well-regarded X-Men stories. In fact, it was actually kind of somewhat adapted as a movie. Maybe you heard of it. X-Men 2. X-Men United. And so we begin in rural Texas. Kitty Pryde and Lockjaw showed up at the Gold Star Cafe, meeting with a young girl, explaining that she's friends with, her and Lockheed are friends of Eric Lehnsherr. The young girl is actually the girl from X-Men Black Magneto. And so, Kitty and the girl talk. And Kitty offers to tell her part of it, tell her about Eric. Things like, you know, how the young girl reminds Eric of the daughter he lost, just as Kitty once did, once upon a time. And then she offers to tell him a story. But she also does mention that Eric is afraid to hope, or refuses to hope because he's afraid of losing it again, which would destroy him. But she tells him a story. Kitty offers to tell the young girl a story about Kitty and Eric, and a man determined to save the world no matter the cost. A man called William Stryker. And so the story begins at Westport Elementary School in Westport, Connecticut. Two siblings, Mark and Jill, running. Jill wants to know if they can stop and rest, but Mark is aware that, well, they can't. The people they're running from are right behind them. So it suggests they can cut through the playground. Mark also tells his sister not to think about what happened to Mom and their parents. And he's cut down with a bullet. Mark tells Jill to run, but it's too late. Their assailants have caught up with them. Mark asks who they are and what they want, and the leader of the group says they're purifiers, and that their intentions should be obvious by now. And the purifiers then execute Mark and Jill, trussing up their bodies on the swing set with Muty written across, with signs saying Muty attached. However, the purifier's intention that the bodies be found tomorrow and become an example for the school children to see is undone when Magneto comes upon it. Suffice to say, he's not happy, especially with the fact he was unable to save them. He then claims that no more shall die, but those responsible for this atrocity. Whatever the cost, however long it takes, he will hunt them down and make them pay. So we cut to New York City, the Stryker Building, headquarters of the worldwide evangelical Stryker Crusade. Stryker's writing a sermon, but there's also a briefing that he goes over about the X-Men, going over Cyclops, Storm, Wolverine, Colossus, Ariel, now Shadowcat, or just Red Queen Kate Pryde, and Nightcrawler. Also mentioned that he's aware that Professor X is a telepath. He's then reminded by his receptionist that he's due at the ABC studios for broadcast that night. In Salem Center, at the dance studio of Stevie Hunter, a fight is broken out between one of her students, Kitty Pryde, and Daniel. The fight is then broken up by Colossus, with some help from his sister Magic. Stevie then comes out and asks what's going on. The other student, Daniel, says that Kitty started the fight. Kitty says that she swung first because Danny shot his mouth off once too often. Daniel then explains that he was talking about the Striker Crusade and all the good it does, and how his folks and him are members, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, Kitty says, tell her the rest. How Stryker's going to save humanity from the godless hordes of mutant kind. Daniel says that he is, and mutants are evil. And they deserve whatever they get. Colossus simply says they both made their points, and he suggests that Daniel let matters end there. Daniel is quite willing to listen to, the 6-foot-tall, muscle-bound Russian. But he does tell Kitty that the next time when King Kong isn't around to protect her, it'll be his turn. And while Stevie's rather calm, it surprises Kitty. But Stevie says, they're only words, and she says, what if asks if Daniel had accused her of loving another minority using a word that I'm not going to use, but it is a racial slur, and you can, given that Stevie Hunter is black, I'm sure you can figure out the word in question. Kitty asks, if Daniel had called her that, would Stevie be so tolerant then? The words sting Stevie a bit, but it turns out that the dance studio is under Purifier surveillance. Anyways, Colossus, Magic, and Ariel return to the mansion. The professor is going to be on Nightline with him, or not appearing with him, but at the studio with him are Storm and Cyclops, and apparently he will be debating Reverend Stryker. Xavier opens the debate, explaining that mutants are not a monolithic group possessing one set of attitudes or goals. They're individuals, as are we all, and should be judged as such. Stryker counters immediately by stating that these individuals possess some pretty terrifying powers. How are normal people supposed to defend themselves against that? He then quotes a report from the now late Senator Kelly and his Committee on Mutant Activities, saying that the ever-increasing numbers of mutants poses a clear and present danger, both to the United States and the socio-political order of the world as we know it. Funny that should come up during this era of the X-Men, right? And they're once However, once all said and done, the X-Men decide to retire to the Danger Room. And one of Stryker's assistants bumps into Cyclops, claiming she wasn't watching where she was going. But that's fine, no harm done. Stryker then asks Anne, the assistant, if everything is ready, and Anne explains that they'll take them to Central Park. Stryker then explains that his psi screens prevented Xavier from scanning their thoughts, so the surprise will be total. We then get a Danger Room sequence with the X-Men. More just kind of dealing with, kind of just, okay, how do we process what we've just, that debate. It's just as much an individual exercise as a team exercise for each of the X-Men. In Central Park, Xavier's car is attacked. Xavier's knocked out. Cyclops is seemingly shot, as is Storm, and the car is destroyed. Mission accomplished. After the X-Men leave the Danger Room, Nightcrawler answers a phone call, explaining that it was the police, and it seems that the Professor, Scott, and Aurora are all dead. The next day, Kitty's crying. When Illyana comes to talk to her, try and comfort her. They go for a walk and they find a sensor in the woods. So Kitty phases through it, disrupting it, and her and Illyana then lie in wait to see who comes to fix it. In Central Park, Logan and Peter are looking over the wreck. Logan explains that, well, yeah, first off, this wasn't an accident. Second, Xavier, Scott, Aurora, they weren't. Those weren't the bodies that. It wasn't their bodies that were found in the wreck. And basically goes through it. Car totally consumed by fire. Bodies burned beyond recognition. Very nice, very neat, but the sensor wrong. Logan then explains to Peter that it's a con. Someone went to hell of a lot of trouble to convince the law and them that Chuck, Scott, and Roro were killed in a car crash. Further explaining that he's staged more than a few such accidents himself over the years. This has all the earmarks. Meanwhile, Nightcrawler is perched on a street lamp, keeping an eye on things. Apparently, there's a car parked across from the rolls that Logan, Peter, and Kurt took from the mansion. Two people have checked out the rolls. Now they're watching and waiting. Logan decides it's time for them to go after them. They manage to get one of the soldiers out, but the other manages to escape, seemingly making to ram straight into Colossus, sacrificing herself in the process. However, Nightcrawler's not going to let her be a martyr for her cause, and teleports the woman out of the car. However, there were additional purifiers present, including one who was able to take down Colossus with some type of weapon. However, before this purifier can go after Wolverine and Nightcrawler, he and his accomplice are stopped and wrapped in metal by Magneto, who explains that he to Wolverine that he's not present as he's present as a friend, and if the X-Men will have him, an ally. Back at the mansion grounds, Kitty and Illyana watch as more purifiers arrive to fix the device that Kitty shorted out. And, well, they fix it and immediately discover Illyana's presence. And definitively revealed to be the leader of the Purifiers from the beginning as well. Takes both, I would at least say, shoots Illyana with a tranquilizer dart. And so Kitty follows by phasing into the car's trunk. However, within the car, it's revealed that there's another contact within the car, and they just realize, oh, the girl must have hidden away in the trunk. Some nerve gas should teach her what happens to curious kitties. At the mansion itself, the remaining X-Men are planning to question the Purifiers, who all state they're prepared to die for their cause. However, before Wolverine can really get into the torture, Magneto steps in. And the Purifiers they've taken prisoner all talk, explaining that through the Stryker Crusade, whose goal is the complete and utter eradication of mutant kind. The means to achieve that end will be the man who has dedicated his life to championing the cause of Homo Superior, Charles Xavier. And to which Magneto replies, once more, genocide in the name of God, a story as old as the race. Colossus wonders if if the interrogation and the extremity of it was necessary. Wolverine states that it was, though Nightcrawler it does pose the question, if they use their foe's methods, how are they better than their enemy? And that is where the issue ends. I've actually been looking forward to this since it was solicited, because while I know what happens in God Loves Man Kills, I've never had the opportunity to actually read it. A lot of the old Marvel graphic novels, which the thing they did back in the 70s and 80s, but a lot of the stories from those, as far as I know, they're not often reprinted by themselves. It's usually you get a massive omnibus, like a Chris Claremont X-Men omnibus, which would have portions of his run on his run on X-Men, or at least his run to a point, as well as other material, X-Men related material written by Claremont from that era. So, yeah. Anyway, that's it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. We'll be back here in a little bit with the rest of this week's haul. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.